You said you talk to him as much as your wife, maybe more.
During the season. During the season. Don't get me in trouble.
The underdog thing. I mean, our players don't pay much attention to that, and I'm kind of the same way.
Yes, they do.
Except for the dog.
Championships Wednesday. I almost said Sunday. I was so excited for the weekend
Not
to get
yet.
here on NFL Total Access. Lindsey Rhodes, Dan Hellie, with special guest analyst Seahawks left tackle Dwayne Brown joining us in studio shortly.
Yeah, we've also got Sean O'Hara, who won a Super Bowl with Tom Coughlin and has some thoughts on his impact in Jacksonville, plus Willie McGinnis, who is as dialed in as anyone on the Patriots. We've also got Ian Rappaport coming up with the story behind the headline in Pittsburgh. Todd Haley out as the Steelers offensive coordinator after 6 years. Technically not fired because his contract was up, but the team decided not to renew it, and we'll have more on that in just a bit. First, though, guess who popped up on the Patriots injury report today? TB12, with a right hand injury that limited his participation at practice and kept him from addressing the media at his scheduled press conference because, as the Patriots announced, he was meeting with the medical staff. Randy Moss was there when they made that announcement while Omar Ruiz was listening to the Jaguars talk in Jacksonville. We'll get to you in just a sec, Omar. First, though, Randy, what the heck, his throwing hand?
Well, we now have some additional details as first reported by the Boston Herald and then confirmed by our Ian Rappaport. Brady jammed his throwing hand at practice today when he was accidentally run into by a teammate. Now, apparently there was some discomfort involved because x-rays were taken. Reportedly, they showed no structural damage. So that obviously is good news. Brady also supposed to speak to the media to what makes Gillette Stadium one of the NFL's toughest venues for opposing teams. See if you can pick out the newest Gronkism.
Our fans are always coming out. I mean, not bringing it back. I mean, I remember last year I was watching in the stands, and they were going bazooka. They were super loud, super proud. So, but it doesn't matter where you are. If you're playing home, if you're playing away, it's the better team that comes out. It's the team that's more prepared. It's the team that plays harder on Sunday that's going to win the game. It doesn't matter if we're home, if we're away. So it's whoever comes out and plays harder on Sunday. So that's what we got to do. And, I mean, obviously having our home fans, them being super loud when they need to be, definitely helps out too.
Gronk did it again. The fans went bazooka last year. You may see bazooka T-shirts in the stadium on Sunday. Lindsay, that might be enough to even make Tom Brady smile right about now.
I love it. So Gronk. This matchup very much a champion versus challenger matchup, Omar. Tom Brady with 5 Super Bowl wins, Blake Bortles with 2 playoff starts. How is he handling all of this?
Well, we talked so much about this Jaguars defense, and justifiably so. But Blake Bortles' play this season has actually been a bigger indicator for the Jaguars' success. In their 12 wins this season, 18 touchdowns, just 3 interceptions. In their 6 losses, 5 touchdowns, 10 interceptions. Although Bill Belichick saying today that Bortles has been great all year. Bortles saying that he doesn't care what people outside the building think. He appreciates the support he's received from his teammates, and he says that this AFC Championship game is not a redemption game for him.
I don't think so. Personally, I don't care. I look at it as, it's an incredible opportunity to continue to be able to play football at this time of year. And we're one of 4 teams that gets to come out and practice, on a Wednesday today. And that's special. I mean, it's something that everybody dreams of, and it's something that everybody works towards.
He handles distractions well. He just stays focused and he just keeps playing ball, And as a teammate, you love to have a guy who's going to just keep fighting no matter what happens. The highs and the lows, he just stays even keel and just keeps doing his thing.
Calais Campbell emerging as one of the great leaders in the locker room. His 14.5 sacks, setting a franchise record, also earning him today the Pro Football Writers of America Defensive Player of the Year award. Just one of the many pieces of hardware the Jaguars hope to collect the rest of this season.
Say what you want about Bortles, Omar. He is undefeated in the postseason. We'll see if he remains so this weekend. Omar, Randy, thank you very much, guys.
For just the 4th time in NFL history, we have the passing yardage leader in Tom Brady going up against the #1 pass defense in the postseason. Now, if you want to read into this, maybe not good news for Brady because that defense has advanced to and won the Super Bowl each and every time. Let's bring in our Hall of Fame quarterback, Kurt Warner, who has apparently been studying a lot of game tape. If you monitor your Twitter account, I saw you send out this tweet not too long ago, basically saying that you're studying the Jags defense and you know how to beat it. Somebody should hire you as an NFL consultant.
That is not what I tweeted.
What do you mean?
I tweeted that I'm watching tape and I love preparing for defenses, so somebody should hire me as a consultant to help them game plan. I did not say that I could go out there or that I knew exactly how to beat the Jags because it's a really good defense. So don't twist it up here. But here's what I'm going to tell you, is that what I love about this matchup is we know all about the corners on the outside. And that's the strength of this defense, although they're good at all three levels. But when I watch this matchup, the beautiful part is nobody's better at attacking in between the numbers than the Patriots. They've done it for years with two tight ends, with their backs. And that, to me, is how you attack this Jags defense. You don't fall into, man, we're going to beat them on the outside where they have their best players. We're going to attack them on the inside and force those linebackers and safeties to cover our best playmakers or our best matchups on the inside with Gronk and those backs. And so that's what I see, and that's what I expect New England to do, is they'll take their chances on the outside, but they're not going to live out there. They'll live in between the numbers, and it'll be interesting to see how the Jags match up with that.
I can't wait to see this matchup. You heard it from his mouth. He knows how to beat the Jags defense. See what happens when you paraphrase just a little bit. You get the words all twisted. Kurt, don't go anywhere. We're going to be back matchup. You heard it from his mouth. He knows how to beat the Jags defense. See what happens when you paraphrase just a little bit. You get the words all twisted. Kurt, don't go anywhere. We're going to be back with you in just a couple of minutes. Thank you, sir.
Case on a deep drop, steps up in the pocket. He'll fire to the right side, caught by Diggs. Stay up! Oh, he got loose! Oh, my God! 30! No! 10! Touchdown! Are you kidding me? It's a Minneapolis Miracle!
3 days removed now from that crazy finish in Minnesota. The Vikings were back on the field today with Andrew Sendejo, who's making his way through the concussion protocol, but without their leading receiver, Adam Thielen, a surprise non-participant. We'll have more on that in just a sec. First, though, how do you turn the page after a game like that?
Yeah, I mean, we understand the magnitude of this football game, and, it's 3 days ago, so it's time to get on to Philadelphia and understand the things we have to do. I think our players are smart enough to understand what's going on.
It's been a good couple days. It's tried to treat it as much like a normal Monday and Tuesday as I could. There's a few more texts, a few more phone calls, a few more questions, a few more, talking to you guys. But those are good problems to have. So, and really, they're not even problems. It's just, something that you deal with.
It's an NFC championship game. No, this is what our focus is on right now, the Philadelphia Eagles. And being professionals, you got to be able to make that switch. And our switch is you got to focus on the Philadelphia Eagles and getting the job done. That's all. You can't live in that moment no more. This is the next big moment. You never know what could happen. It could be another big play like that the next game. But you just got to live in the moment. The moment's now, and that's the Philadelphia Eagles.
And we have James Palmer in Philadelphia with them. First, though, Tom Pelissero is in Eden Prairie with the Vikings. Should we be concerned about this Thielen absence?
Lindsay, Adam Thielen took a hit to his lower back early in the third quarter against the Saints. He returned to the game. He finished it out, seemed to be in good spirits at practice today. My understanding is the Vikings are not overly concerned about Thielen's health, but certainly it's worth monitoring what he's able to do the rest of the week. Thielen, one of the big weapons for Vikings quarterback Case Keenum, who said today that Nick Foles is one of his best friends going back to their days together with the Rams. The two of them have been talking through the course of this season. Keenum also said the Vikings have their hands full with an Eagles defense that is talented and disrupted. On the other side of the ball, defensive end Everson Griffin said everything for the Vikings starts with stopping the Eagles' run game, make Carson Wentz's backup uncomfortable. Put shortly, Griffin said, we've got to make Nick Foles win this game. Lindsay?
James, how about the Eagles? Foles is obviously a big story there, but what about the other guys that you heard from today? How are they approaching this game?
I think, Lindsay, the word of the day here in Philadelphia has been aggression. Talking to a couple of guys after their padded, full-speed practice. They've had one of them each week since the regular season ended. And a couple of the guys told me they could tell going into that Falcons game and in the early portion of that game, they were winning the line of scrimmage because they've been aggressive, they've been physical, they've had these physical styles of practices the last couple of weeks. But that also correlates with the aggressive play calling of Doug Peterson, also a hot topic here. Mike Zimmer, Vikings head coach, on a conference call with us, said he knows how aggressive Doug Peterson can be. He'll go for it on 4th and 1. He'll also up 20, go for it on 4th and 6. They all know about the aggressive play calling. His offensive coordinator here in Philadelphia, Frank Reich, calls it unique. Here's Doug Peterson describing his play calling.
I've told you guys this before, that sometimes you just don't just do the norm. Just don't do what everybody expects you to do, and sometimes that can help you. And I'm calculated by it, but at the same time, I want to make sure that I'm putting our guys in a good position.
Lindsay, I spoke with tight end Zach Ertz after their game against the Falcons with a lot of different play calls that they had in their first playoff game of this season. He told me Doug Peterson is the best play caller that he's ever been around.
Vikings-Eagles, the last game of the weekend, the last game that we will see before the Super Bowl this year, 6:40 Eastern, Sunday on Fox. Thank you so much, guys.
All right, last game of the weekend, but first game we are going to be talking about today, gentlemen. Sean O'Hara, Super Bowl champion, 3-time Pro Bowler. Willie McGinnis, 3-time Super Bowl champion, 2-time Pro Bowler, and postseason sack king. And our special guest today, 10-year veteran, 3-time Pro Bowler, current left tackle for the Seattle Seahawks, Dwayne Brown.
One of the best left tackles in the game, Dan.
Amen to that.
Okay.
How do you feel being sandwiched in between two linemen right
I feel
now?
great.
Like
I feel comfortable.
A little 9-on-7, a little 1-on-1 pass rush. Gonna break down?
I don't like that.
I think he's always felt comfortable around offensive line. That's why he's the postseason sack king. Let's break down this matchup. When you talk about the Eagles and the Vikings, what is one particular matchup, Dwayne, you're going to be keeping your eye on?
I think we got to look to the outside on the edge. I think Minnesota's Griffin versus Philly's Vitae. I believe it's going to be a tough one. Everson Griffin is a beast. I mean, he has 13 regular season sacks. He has a sack in the last 3 playoff games. Just a big-time player. And Vitae has surrendered 6 sacks, I believe, in the last 8 weeks.
Yeah.
And 9 QB hits. So it's going to be a big test for him. I think he's done a decent job filling in for Jason Peters, but he'll have his hands full this weekend.
Halapuli Vitae. I actually put it phonetically in the prompter. Dwayne, you want to give it a shot right there?
Halapuli Vitae.
There it is. He
got it.
I got you, brother.
I love it.
He got it.
And 6 sacks since week 8. That's when he became a starter. And 9 hits he has given up. That's the most for any left tackle in the NFL.
That's not good.
No,
They try to give him a little help. Sliding left, I think, is the best way to do it because now you can protect the inside. I mean, the running back chip is always there, but they're doing so much of that run RPO with the back in the backfield. You got to do the slide protection to help.
Yeah, they're certainly well aware of his numbers there at left tackle. Mac, let's go with you. A match that you're looking forward to seeing.
Well, Pat Shermer, there's no surprise he's in the running or conversations for the head coaching job. I think he put a great play design around the offense in Case Keenum. So when you watch the tape and watch some of these specialty plays, the very first play that pops up right here, this is the design play. Look at the pick right here. It's a natural pick, and this is
Robin's racing.
This is right coming off this pick for a 22-yard gain. This is a great play right here, and this is something that you hadn't seen before. And I think the other thing is get your playmakers the ball in space. Okay, Jerick McKinney is one of those guys you can use them on a speed sweep. This flip play right here is great. And something I didn't see a lot of last week was the screen game. He's one of the best in the game at running the screens. You're going to have to get your playmakers against this defense the ball in space. And then, of course, Case Keenum, making plays out of the pocket. Now, Case Keenum has been a magician at sorts. Watch how him avoid the pressure right here. Gets off, makes a nice throw down the football field. But the other thing is, when he runs those read options and things like that, he can keep the ball. He's very athletic. He can run, as you see right here. So you're definitely going to put those plays in. And because of the interior push, the way they're going to push the pocket in the front 4 of the Philadelphia Eagles, the other thing you want to do is move the pocket. Those boots and the different plays off of that action, he's really good in those short to intermediate throws. So I think Pat Shermer's done a great job at the play design and figuring out ways to attack defenses.
Amazing to see what they have done without their starting quarterback this year and without their starting tailback this year. What are you looking for?
Well, you mentioned the matchup. I mean, I'm obviously watching all the trenches for the Vikings defense. They're so good on third down. So I'm looking at the Eagles. how do you prevent the 3rd and long? Well, you got to be great on 1st and 2nd down.
Yep.
I think the Eagles, their run game, to me, is underappreciated. They led the league in runs over 10-plus yards, and this is how they did it. It's different scheme, different design. This is 35 wham. Right? Trey Burton, the tight end's going to wham the no edge the defense right there. You get your guard up on the linebacker, center up on the 2nd level. You let the big hogs get up on the linebackers, get their hands. It's like driving the bus. All right, now this is Ben 35T right here. We're pulling the big fella, right? The tackle, Lane Johnson. Vaitai sets the edge right there with the double team, and now he's up to the 2nd level. So this gives Ajayi a two-way go right here in these runs. These schemed run plays are what Philly does such a great job of on. They're not I formation. It's not like Jacksonville. Hey, we're lining up, and it's just 3 yards in a cloud of dust. They do a great job of edging the defense, and I think they're the most athletic offensive line in the league right now. They do a great job in space. You mentioned the screen plays from the Vikings. How about Wisniewski? How about Kelsey getting out in space? That's what you want to see from this Eagles group. That's how you stay out of 3rd and long.
We don't talk about that offensive line enough. How many Pro Bowlers on that Eagles offensive line, Dwayne Brown?
Well, you have 2 that were named Pro Bowlers this year, and Kelsey got snubbed, I believe. He's the 3rd there.
All right, so 2.5 Pro Bowlers basically on that Eagles offensive line.
And they're missing JP. You know, Peters.
He comes back.
Yeah,
great problem. Lindsay?
As for the Steelers, whose season ended Sunday, I mentioned their decision to move forward without Todd Haley. He's been their offensive coordinator for the last 6 years. Mike Tomlin says he decided not to renew his contract, which isn't a huge surprise since we've heard reports that he and Ben haven't been getting along. We heard those reports from Ian Rappaport, in fact, yesterday. Ian, was that ultimately the deciding factor? Is this a case of irreconcilable differences?
Yeah, that is my understanding, that this relationship just was not going to allow both participants to move forward, despite the fact that Roethlisberger's probably played his best football with Todd Haley as offensive coordinator, but it got so bad this year, the relationship was so strained, they had to have quarterbacks coach Randy Fichtner come down from the booth and serve as a conduit on the sidelines for these guys to communicate. Mike Tomlin making the decision that Haley would not be back, not renewing his contract, and mostly because of that relationship. Speaking of Fichtner, by the way, I am told he is going to be the Steelers' offensive coordinator. That deal is going to be finalized tomorrow. As for offensive line coach Mike Munchak, we know that he pulled out of the Arizona Cardinals coaching search. I'm told the Cardinals have 2 second interviews set up. One is with Keith Armstrong, the Falcons special team coach. Another is with Panthers defensive coordinator Steve Wilks. Both of those are slated to happen later in.
Throwing it up in the air, incomplete! Case on a deep drop, steps up in the pocket, lobs it for Gronk, touchdown Patriots! He'll fire to the right side, caught by Diggs.
Ball is out, Delvin Smith picks it up and runs along the right sideline. Touchdown!
Oh, it got loose! 10! Touchdown!
What an amazing performance by this football team.
Minneapolis Miracle!
Oh, what a moment that was. What a divisional weekend it was. And how about these championship matchups? Jags, Patriots at 3:05 on Sunday, followed by the Vikings, Eagles at 6:40. And while we're on the subject of times, let's go on the clock. 3 minutes now with Willie, Sean, and Dwayne, starting with our guest and the running back matchup in the NFC game. Dwayne, we have Murray and McKinnon or Ajayi and Blunt. Which duo do you think ends up with more yards?
I got to go with Murray and McKinnon. Minnesota.
Scrimmage yards or running yards?
I think both.
Okay.
I think Philly has a great front, but I think they excel at stopping the pass. They got a lot of guys that want to rush the passer. Smaller linebacker unit. I think they can, those linemen get behind their pads, they can run the ball. And McKinnon been great out of the backfield in the passing game. So the scrimmage yards, I think, would you add that into play. I think they'll get the advantage.
Okay.
How about your Patriots, Willie? Most important player this weekend, not named Brady.
Or Gronk. So I'm going to go with Deion Lewis because he accounts for 427 of their scrimmage yards in the last 3 weeks. The next closest guy is Danny Amendola with 183. The other thing is he has 48% of the team's touches since the last 3 games, which means he's pretty valuable to this team. They find different ways to get him the ball.
He's so scary in space.
He's scary in space. He's slippery when you try to tackle him. You never get a clean hit. When you match him up and you put him out of the backfield, you don't know what he's going to do. So he's a tough guy to take down.
If Brady's hand's not okay, it might be Brian Hoyer. Sorry.
I'm
wishing that on anybody.
Killing our time.
Sean, NFC. Who's the X factor in the Vikings-Eagles game?
I'm going to say Nelson Aguilar. When you look at what he's done in the slot, 8 touchdowns from the slot position, more than any other player in the league.
Fight on.
And now when you look at the Vikings, they've been so good against slot receivers. They've had 10 receptions on passes thrown to the slot. So I like Aguilar. I think he's the game changer. You're seeing him around the gadget play, so it's not just in the passing game, the run game as well.
Fight on.
Let's talk trenches. Who wins the battle there? Jags D or Patriots O?
Well, I got to go with Jacksonville. I mean, they pegged themselves Saxonville, the name Saxonville. I think, you got Calais Campbell, Malik Jackson.
Yannick Ngakoue.
They got so many guys that can get after you. And, I think the thing that can help New England out is just Brady getting the ball off quick. But, they also got 2 good cornerbacks over there, that are forcing to hold it for a little while.
And for the record, you weren't there in week 1 when they had 10 sacks against the Texans.
I was not there.
You weren't there.
For the record, that Jags D obviously very, very good. Are they better than the Vikings, though, Willie? Pick one.
I would take this defense just because of the different things they can do. They can rush you with 4 guys, okay, and they can get pressure. They can put guys in the box, and they can man up across the front. The slot guy, Coughlin, is another guy on the outside. Boyer and Ramsey, we talked about them. You can mix and match blitz zones and different man-to-man blitzes and different things you can do, and you can be safe on the back end. And I think when you look at the attitude and what the linebackers can do with the backs covering out of the backfield and tight ends, it makes them for a special defense.
It is a special defense. They are both special defense. We've got a lot of good defenses
All
playing
of them are pretty good.
The Patriots don't get a lot of love for their defense, but they've been among the best in the league since like week 5-ish or so.
They're just doing their job.
Just flying under the radar.
That Vikings D, though, number 1 in the NFL. Obviously, no joke, but let's not forget about that Eagles D either. They are number 4 in the NFL. Obviously, no slouch. After the break,
offense this season, and they ranked in the top 7 in total offense in each of the past 4 seasons.
So, Dan, you are saying that there is turnover among the Steelers coaching staff. That takes me right to what's trending, presented by Hyundai and the Jacksonville Bakery, who is sending Ben Roethlisberger 7 of their best apple, cherry, and blueberry turnovers to thank him for his 7 turnovers against the Jags this year. And it looks like the maneuver is going to gain them at least one high-profile customer, Jalen Ramsey, who wins the hashtag game, Respect the Petty. And if pet is what you're looking for, we've got more of that. Bengals fans contributing to Blake Bortles' charity as a thank you for knocking the Steelers out of the playoffs. Vikings fans are contributing to the foundation of Saints punter Thomas Morstead, but they're not trolling him. They're doing it out of respect. He played with bruised ribs. He came out on the field for the extra point when everybody else was in the locker room, and they are up to $84,000 raised so far. By the way, I mentioned this yesterday. I wanted to show you proof that I was not kidding. A Vikings fan literally tore his Achilles celebrating that last play. So Minnesota moves on to face Philadelphia. And look at this defensive matchup. Mini with the top-ranked D in the league. Philly, top 5 in all of these different categories. All of this means that the big guys up front on offense have a very tough task ahead of themselves. And for more on that, we turn now to our offensive linemen, Sean and Dwayne.
Thanks, Lindsay. All right, I'm here with Dwayne. Everybody is focused on the Vikings defense, but you think the Vikings offensive line has the toughest challenge. Tell us why.
Well, I think Philadelphia just has too much depth. They have too much talent across the board with their starting front and their backups. Here you can check out a little bit of film. Both the tackles kind of high. Philly plays with great leverage, getting up under the guys, pushing the pocket. Case Keenum's about 6 foot maybe, and you get guys in his face, it's hard for him to maneuver. Guys gets a sack right there.
Both those tackles are way too high. They got to get better knee bend, right?
Have to. In this clip right here, it's going to be more of the same. Just pushing the pocket. Brandon Graham gets an edge, leaks off inside. Fletcher Cox, one of the best interior defenders in the league. Just walking the guard back some. It's hard for any quarterback to maneuver with that kind of pressure in his face. And I think Case Keenum being, with the stature that he has, is going to be hard for him to maneuver with them pressing the pocket like that.
Fletcher Cox does such a great job pushing that pocket when you get the rushes off the perimeter, and now there's nowhere for the quarterback to go. Brandon Graham also, as much as he does damage on the outside, they like to move him over the guard. You saw that a little bit when you played him in Seattle. I think when you look at first and second down, you got to do a great job so on third down you're not on third and long, right?
Yeah, you have to. You have to be able to run the ball well. not let those guys pin their ears back like they want to do, you know. And like I said, but the key for that Philly defense is that the depth they have. You got Chris Long coming in, who's lit it up this year. You got Burnett, the rookie, who's had a phenomenal year. And I think it'll just be too much for them for 4 quarters.
All right, we got a great breakdown there for Dwayne. Helly, I hope you were paying attention.
Check out the numbers for the Patriots offense and the Jags defense. This is one of the best, if not the best, offense in the NFL going up against one of the best, if not the best, defense in the NFL. So here's the deal, Willie. As you know, it is a chameleon-like offense there when you're talking about the Patriots. They adjust better on a weekly basis than any other team in the NFL. They can be a grinded-out run-first team, and then the next week, depending on their opponent, they can be a pass-first, air-it-out team. This week, the opponent's pretty good against everything, right?
Yeah,
so if you're defensive coordinator Todd Wash in the Jags, how do you game plan for these guys?
Well, there's a couple things that I would be aware of. One is the backside of the backfield, okay? So you know that they use the backs in a lot of different ways, and they get them out in space. But the other thing is how to defend Gronk. Nobody's been able to figure that out, and teams have tried. So when you watch and you see some of the ways that teams have tried, they've tried to do it with either a linebacker, which you see Lee right here, and then a safety over the top with Adams. That worked out pretty well. They tried to do it for the first half with Adams alone. That didn't work. So they kept a guy underneath, and they tried to trail. And then you see other teams like here, the Denver Broncos, one of the better covered teams in the league. That's Talib right there, covering Gronk.
Talib.
One-on-one. That's a defensive back. That's a corner. So in my mind, the way I think that the Jacksonville Jaguars could approach this game is they got one of the biggest, most physical, athletic cornerbacks in the league that lacks no confidence. That's Jalen Ramsey. If you want to try and lock down Gronk, and you're saying you're the best guy in the league at covering people, I want to see that matchup. I will pay to see that matchup with Ramsey versus Gronk the entire game and see how that pans out. Because you got Boye, who can cover Brandon Cooks, and then you got, Coughlin, the other slot cornerback that can cover Hogan or Amendola. So you match up pretty well. But trying to figure out how to get Gronk is going to either take 2 defenders or one of your best defenders to stop. And I would say just Jalen Ramsey.
Well, let me ask you this. Will it work? Can Ramsey cover Gronk? He's long, he's fast, he's strong, but can anybody really cover Gronk?
We'll have to see. Teams are drafting safeties and these hybrid linebacker/safeties to try to figure out how to stop Gronk. So we will see. The kid has a lot of confidence. He's definitely one of the most talented players, not just defensive guys, but players in the league. I want to see the matchup. I want to see what happens.
Well, we talk about keys. Gronk is a key.
Yes.
Since 2014, the Patriots 15-1 when Gronk goes over 100 yards. Ooh. Ironically, that only lost in the 2015 AFC Championship game against the Broncos when Aqib Talib was covering him.
Yeah.
On the success of Case Keenum, Nick Foles, and Blake Bortles.
Recipe. You have to believe it's going to be good defense, run the football, and then Blake make key plays like he did last week. But I love what Blake said after the first game. Is he came out and said, you know what, at playoff time, you just have to find a way. I don't know what the recipe is going to be. I don't think it's going to be go out there and throw 40 times and put up big numbers. I think it's manage the game and find a way to make those plays. Game 1, it was 88 yards rushing. When he couldn't get anything going with his arm, he found a way to make plays with his legs. Last week, it was more about the play action. The run game was going. They got a couple good play actions, made a huge throw down the field in the fourth quarter, the big touchdown to Bohannon, and that's really the recipe. Play good defense, run the football, and Blake Bortles, do whatever you have to do to find a way to win.
And that's what the good ones do, right? They just find a way to get it done, and that's exactly what the 2 gentlemen who are playing in the NFC Championship game have done so far this year. Nick Foles and Case Keenum, of course, they as well have very good defenses on their teams. Here's a look at the numbers, and it's amazing how similar their career numbers have been, from win total to completion percentage to passing yards per game, and then that passer rating almost identical as well. Both Keenum and Foles, of course, were backup quarterbacks at the start of the season, thrust into the starting roles. Keenum maybe a little bit more consistent than Foles has been, but certainly he's had his moments as well. Kurt, who do you trust more going into this weekend's game?
Well, tough question right here. I think there's two ways to look at this. If I'm asking for a quarterback that has to, make a bunch of throws and score a bunch of points and it has to bring me back late in the game, I'm going with Case Keenum. He's shown us this year that he's got a better handle on what they're doing and attacking, down the field with the football. But, when I look at the other side of it, I say the other part of that is I think Case has more confidence in his right arm, so he takes a lot more chances. There was a couple times in that game last week where he really forced some throws, and he got away with them early outside of that one in the third quarter where he kind of threw it up for grabs. So I'm going to say Case Keenum, but I think it depends on the scenario that we're talking about.
Case Keenum also 4-1 against top 10 defenses this year. So certainly he's been getting it done against primetime opponents. That is our Hall of Fame quarterback, Kurt Warner. Thank you very much. There's a common perception that you lose to New England before the game even
Super Bowl, the only coach to beat Belichick and Brady in the big game. And while he is not the Jaguars coach, and this is not the Super Bowl, it is worth pointing out that he is on staff down there in Jacksonville, and he could be a valuable resource for Doug Marrone this weekend.
I've leaned on Coach pretty good from day one. So, I don't think I can lean on him anymore because I'm a big guy, and if I lean on him, it might hurt him a little bit. No, but honestly, I think it's not something that all of a sudden now all of a sudden that there's success and Coach is more involved. It's been the same way from day one when we first started working together. So when you say, do you lean on him? I've leaned on him quite a bit. We work with each other quite a bit. So we work the same amount of time together and talk about the same things.
Clearly a lot of respect there. Still calls him coach.
Yeah.
Sean, you played for Coughlin.
Yeah.
In what ways do you see his influence on this Jaguars team?
Well, to me, it starts with the culture. And I remember when I came to the Giants as a free agent in 2004, and I met with Coach and I met with the staff. I was their first offensive signing as a coach when he got there. And he said, Sean, I'm signing you as a player for what you do on the field, but also for what you're going to do in the locker room. And that was really where we started the change. And that you saw that in Jacksonville. And look, it's not just Tom, but it's Dave Caldwell. They brought in Calais Campbell. They brought in some guys that have changed the culture. They expect to win now. I think before they hope to win and probably expect to lose. But when you look at defensively what this team and how they're built because they have all kinds of rushers. When I see these rushers, you're seeing them right here. It's Dante Fowler. It's Yannick Ngakoue, who you talked to the other day. It's Calais Campbell. That reminds me of Strahan, Osi, and Tuck. When you have that three-headed monster, that NASCAR package, we called it, and you could get after the tackles, the guards, and get all those pressures in the A and B gaps. Now all of a sudden you've got players that can change the game around, and you've seen this defense score touchdowns. That right there is that's the culture, and that's the recipe for wins.
It's funny you talk about them expecting to win now. You can probably speak to that as somebody who played the Jaguars for a number of years and maybe saw that transformation up close. Did you sense that?
Absolutely. I think being in a division for 9 years, had a lot of battles with them. They were never short of talent. But it was just a mentality and a culture, like you said. I think, guys just didn't expect to win, and they would fight hard for like a quarter or two, and then you would kind of coast through the rest of the game. And just talking to guys that are there now that have seen the shift, I think Calais Campbell and Malik Jackson, those guys have seen just the change in the culture, and I think Coughlin has something to do with that. This accountability factor and making guys do things right all the time, I think, has helped them build a level of confidence throughout the year, starting OTAs, training camp, that they've brought into the season, and you can see it exuding throughout the year. They feel like they can get to the Super Bowl, and now they're just one step away.
What is it about him that his teams have had success against Belichick and Brady, though?
To me, it's the preparation. You can't win the game on Wednesday, Thursday, or Friday, but you could sure as heck lose it. And that was kind of everything that he drilled in you. It's why Michael Strahan, you heard him talk about, I didn't think I would last a year. It's because Coach always had this saying on there, coaching is making men do what they don't want to do, so they can become the men that they want to become. That's kind of the mentality, and we're seeing that in Jacksonville. It goes back to the way he learned football. Under Bill Parcells, same as Bill Belichick. The most physical team usually wins. You look at that defense, you look at the way they play offense, they are just more physical. It's not about gadgets and glitz and glamour. It's about just being physical.
We would be remiss if we didn't give David Caldwell a lot of credit in this segment as well.
Absolutely.
As the general manager of this Jaguars team, he's helped build the team that we're seeing today.
For all three of them, for how they just get along. Kind of like the three of us right here at the table. Sharing the credit.
Okay, and speaking of credit, he wrote an article. You're seeing at the bottom of your screen.
I don't know if wrote is the right
Did
word,
you
but
just dictate?
Yeah,
Is that what happened?
Yeah. Typed.
Okay.
With David Carr.
Something along those lines.
But I went
Anyway,
to
you can read more about Sean O'Hara's thoughts on this subject
Rutgers
matter
and
on
Fresno State get together,
NFL.com.
you get an article.
Years for over 1,000 rushing yards to go along with 41 touchdowns. You can see Jackson, along with former Ohio State quarterback J.T. Barrett, at the 93rd edition of the East-West Shrine Game Saturday, 3 Eastern, only on NFL Network.
So it's Championship Wednesday today. That means we heard from a lot of different players on the 4 remaining teams. Not Tom Brady. He missed his press conference because of a new hand injury. But he did talk yesterday, and this quote caught the eye of Telvin Smith.
This is the biggest challenge we've faced all year. You know, we've had a good offense. They've had the best defense. And, you know, that's always a challenge when you go up against those guys.
Now Telvin's reaction. Bruh, this is the oldest trick. Pump us up in the media, but in the building, I know what's really being said. Willie, he's not buying it.
He's not buying it, but he's honest.
The flattery thing, he knows.
He's being honest, though. This is one of the best defenses. The best defense he's faced all year long.
All right?
Yes.
Who are you buying? It's time to make your picks. Is there
Already
any
it's Wednesday.
chance that I think this is the last time we're going to see you, though. We got to get these in the can.
I'm about to shock a lot of people with this one. I'm taking the Jags.
What? Say what? Wait, are we doing say what?
I'm taking the Jags.
Look at the screen. There's a catch.
I'm taking the Jags in the first half. And then I'm taking the Patriots in the second half. I'm taking the Patriots in the second half.
Like 28-3, or?
I don't know the score yet. I'm still formulating that.
What do you think, Dwayne? AFC.
I think Jacksonville defense, I think they're going to play lights out. I think Jacksonville running game going to keep Brady out the field just long enough for them to get the win. I'm going to Jacksonville.
Oh, Jacksonville!
Wow.